Well, wonderful. Well, I'm just going to jump into the questions if that's
Okay.
okay. So my first question, Kara, is what is your biggest frustration with Hashimoto's?
Oh gosh, how do I narrow it down to one?
Yeah, right?
There are kind of two that are waging war in my head. The first you kind of alluded to, which is that people aren't talking about this enough. So there's not enough data to actually
Hmm.
help us with our quality of life,
Yeah.
which was an inspiration for me to interview some women and write a book and talk about helpers and how this is
Wow.
more prevalent in women who are helpers, actually. So that's a piece of the
Yeah.
puzzle. I think personally, the frustration is flare ups and the fact that
Yep.
we don't really know what's causing them, that we can be doing all the things that be very consistent and still have a flare up, which I know is super frustrating for myself and others.
Yes, thank you. That is something that I feel that's the big gap in Hashimoto's is you can do all the things and get the diet just right or get the medication just right, but nothing to test for flare-ups. And even if
Yes.
you're in remission, you're going to have a flare-up. I'm curious, I saw that you'd written a book. When did you write it?
Yeah, so I have it sitting here just in case, but this
Oh,
is the book.
cool.
So that launched
Love it.
on Amazon in October. It was a
Oh, so
labor of
soon.
love this year. I wrote a different book on workaholism last year in the pandemic.
Yeah.
This is my fourth book that I've written, just embracing something of like how to reach more people as a mental health therapist. But the reason the book even exists is that I was working with women who were coming in with burnout and anxiety and depression and then had a connection to thyroid. And so they didn't realize that
Mm,
that was connected in some way or had a relationship.
yeah.
And then as soon as I got my diagnosis, which was 2017,
Okay.
Hashimoto's, took several years to actually figure out what it was. I realized that they were saying, unless you're gonna have a child, like this is your life now. And I was like, no, no, that's not how I want this to work.
Yeah, I understand.
So as soon as I started embracing that this was part of my identity, I realized how many other therapists and caseworkers and doctors and nurses,
Yeah.
helpers, the identity of helpers
Yep.
have this because we're
That's
giving
so
our all to
true.
people and now we're getting inflammation. And I guess COVID is also increasing the numbers of autoimmune conditions right now too. So
That doesn't surprise me. Or
yeah,
I
so
used to
this
be a
book is
therapist.
specific. Oh yeah, you
So
know
yeah,
exactly.
I know. Yeah, I had Hashimoto's. I understand. Yeah.
Yeah, so just like have no boundaries, the superhero capes on. And so I really talk about kind of
Mm.
that perfect storm of like the personality type that's really drawn to helping and how that might actually contribute to this relationship with
Wow.
Hashimoto's or thyroid.
That's awesome. I love it. So helpers with Hashimoto's. I will be
Yep,
checking that out. Is it on Amazon, you said?
it is. Yes, it is.
Amazon. Okay, great. Well, that's how fun. I'm so glad that we get to connect today. That's awesome.
Yeah, I love what you're doing. And I think
Thank
that the
you.
community needs to be built and we need more answers. So I just appreciate what you're up to.
Yeah. Well, thanks. Thank you. I do too. I just feel like, yeah, as women, we feel so separate in our experience. And once you start to find out, oh my gosh, it's not just a me thing or a you thing, but it's an everyone thing, then we can kind of bond together and maybe figure this out, I think, a little bit more than we are when we're on our own separate islands. That's
Right.
what it feels like.
Mm-hmm.
Great. And then the next question has to do with books. Are there any specific books that you are drawn to? You've written a book. Are there any other maybe authors or specific books that you love when it comes to Hashimoto's or that you're, like I said, drawn to?
I mean, I think the first one, anything by what is she, a pharmacist, Isabel
Oh,
Wentz or whatever her
Isabella
name
Wentz.
is.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. So that was one of the books that was given to me as a gift when I first started this
Yeah.
journey, my own journey. And it was overwhelming. Like it was full of helpful information, but it was super overwhelming for
It's
me because it was
dense.
just like change your whole diet, do all these things, like
Yeah.
overhaul your life. And I was not in the headspace to do all of that. So even though I had that book first, it wasn't the one that spoke to me the most. It was actually Rachel Hill's book, Be Your
Oh,
Own Thyroid Advocate.
I don't think I've heard that one.
So
Okay.
she is, what is her hashtag on Instagram or handle? Uh, I think it's like the thyroid advocate or something like that. But she's
Mm.
got the lived experience, sounds like that you and I have, and wrote a book that was basically for people who've been diagnosed and their loved ones and really simplified like, here's how you support someone who's waking up one day completely functional and the next day can't get out of bed
Mm.
or has a flare up or these kinds of things. So I really
Yeah.
appreciate that book for the layperson. And that
Oh,
one
neat.
had all the
Okay.
right info, but it was much more manageable,
Yeah, it
less
was
technical.
simpler. I know I love Isabella Wentz's book. I have the root cause here, but it gave me a little headache. It just felt
Yeah,
like it's
it's a
good,
lot.
very technical, and she did a lot of good work and research into it. But for the layperson, right, the average woman, I feel that it was a lot to bite. The next question is, a lot of us buy courses or programs for Hashimoto's. Not everyone, but some people do. Is there any programs or courses that you have bought?
I guess active online for me. Her Instagram handle is Hope with Hashimoto's.
Okay.
Um, why can I not remember her name? I can see her face in my head. Anyway, she's a coach, and she had a Hashimoto's 101 course that just like went through all the things, everything from food to mold to here's products that don't have toxic elements to them,
Mm-hmm.
which I appreciated. And even then, putting it in bite-sized chunks was still overwhelming for a lot of us. So then she offered a coaching program, which was that 6-week course I mentioned.
Okay.
So there were 6 women in it, all different ages, all different backgrounds. All of us had some sort of thyroid thing happening with Hashimoto's. Some were newly diagnosed, some had managed it for years.
Um,
And that program was really meant to just like break down the information, answer questions, but also build a community
mm,
around, not feeling so alone.
well, that's
Yeah, it
nice.
was powerful to hear other people's stories, not just hers, as someone who has Hashimoto's, has had multiple moments in her life where things just went awry, usually from a mold exposure, is what her story was. But
Mm,
not just her expertise, but the people saying, "Oh, have you tried an Epsom salt bath? I love them." Or here's the red light therapy. Have you tried that? Or acupuncture, just
yeah,
different things.
and hearing others' experiences, that's helpful. I'm just write that down.
Yeah.
And that was a question I had too, is are there any like specific people that you follow, influencers, people, I mean, even doctors, and
Yeah.
whatnot in the Hashimoto's field that you really like resonate with?
Yeah. So Rachel Hill for sure is the one that wrote the Advocate book. She's in England somewhere. She's young. She's like 29
Wow.
or so. Had her first baby. So just watched her kind of go through that. This coach, why can't I remember her name? Actually, it's in here. Allison Rasp. That's it. Allison Rasp. So she's Hope with Hashimoto's. That's her handle.
RASP.
RAASP.
Okay.
Rasp. And then Dr. Alan Christensen is one of the two founders of that American College of Thyroidology.
Okay.
He
Okay.
posts all the time about supplements and things. So I continue to tell colleagues that ask, like, find a functional medicine doctor. Don't go so Western, and kind of find the Eastern flavor of it, because, it's not just about levothyroxine, which I get is the number 2 most prescribed medication in the US, which blew
Yeah.
my mind, but makes sense. Like, if 1 in 5 women have this, 1 in 8 people have a thyroid condition. It makes sense. It's second most prescribed behind diabetes.
Right.
Um, but like, what if levothyroxine doesn't work in your body, or like you need something different? So the
Mm,
supplements are expensive, but I feel like a little bit more reassured myself personally that I'm not putting something horrible in my body. Like, I'll take a fish oil, I'll take a vitamin D, like whatever.
hmm. Yeah, I totally understand. Yep.
And the
Yeah, it
functional
feels
medicine
better.
docs are more about that. So I try and tell people, find at least that. If you have to start somewhere, find a doctor who has that
Hmm.
label with
Yeah,
that.
good. I think, yeah, I didn't even know about functional medicine when I first started this whole
Right.
journey. So it was like, oh, and then you find functional medicine. And it's like, oh, there's this whole other world out there that I didn't even, I just took what my doctor said and just, took medication and just, kind of trucked on for a while until I realized that there was a whole other world out there.
Mhm.
And yeah, to kind of wake up to that. So, okay, that's good. And so at the end of your life, what do you hope, Khara, that people will say about you and how you impacted them?
Ooh, that's a powerful question.
Yeah, I know.
I mean,
Boom. Yeah.
in the broad scope, I want to be remembered as being like a thought leader, somebody who
I
helps
love
them
it.
start to think differently, whether
Yep.
it's about burnout and busyness, which I just did a TED talk on last weekend, or
Awesome.
this topic. Like, I want people to start thinking about it differently instead of saying this is how it's always been done.
Hmm.
um so I think I want people to reevaluate work life balance. I'm obviously working on that myself. I want people to like be inspired to think differently than what they've been taught, whether that's a mental health therapist that I'm working with, or a client that I'm working with, or someone who comes across one of these 3 books, just to be like, oh,
Mm,
spark of something inspirational.
I love
And not
that.
to give up or settle because people say this is how it's done. Take levothyroxine, see this kind of doctor, use your insurance. Like, I know that that's a privilege to be able to afford something outside of insurance, but Like it's not a one size fits all box for Hashimoto's. That's why
No,
we
it's
need all
not.
these resources. That's awesome. I can't wait to see what comes of this. So I hope we can stay
Thank
in touch
you.
about it.
I would love, yeah, I will let you know when this YouTube channel comes to fruition and you will be have been a big part of it. So thank you.
Thank you, Josie, for what you do. And I will let these women know in next week that you are doing this, and hopefully someone will pop in your calendar.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. I really appreciate it, Khara. Thanks for your
But
time today, and I look forward to checking out your book as well.